Unless there's an objection, seeing no objection, this meeting is called to order. Councilman Price, can you lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please?
If you're able, please rise. At this meeting, help us to make decisions which keep us faithful to our mission and reflect our values. Give us strength to hold on to our purpose, wisdom to guide us, and a keen perception to lead us. And above all, keep us charitable as we deliberate. Please join me with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As always, I'm hoping you're going to be seeing more of these swearing-ins. We have been finding some very qualified, very professional individuals to bring into the department. So I'm going to introduce Officer Brian Kitt. He was employed as a compliance specialist. This was his previous job as an investigator for the Georgia Professional Standards Commission from 2017 to 2025. Prior to that, he was employed as a police officer and detective for the Fulton County Police Department, and he served some time as a deputy sheriff for the Cobb County Sheriff's Office. Brian holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the American Military University, and he joined our team on Tuesday, May 27th, and he is currently in the police training officer program and doing an outstanding job.
Okay, I'm coming.
Thank you.
If you'll raise your right hand, please. On my honor, I.
On my honor, I,
Your name.
Brian Kitt,
Do solemnly swear and affirm that.
do solemnly swear and affirm that
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America.
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America,
The Constitution of the State of Georgia.
the Constitution of the State of Georgia,
And the Charter and ordinances of the City of Dunwoody, Georgia.
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Dunwoody, Georgia.
I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money
I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due to the state, I'm sorry,
That's fine, due to the state.
to this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof.
I am not the holder of any office or trust under the government of the United States,
I am not the holder of any office or trust under the government of the United States,
any other state, or any foreign state which I am by the laws of the state of Georgia prohibited from holding.
any other state or any foreign state which I am, by the laws of the state of Georgia, prohibited from holding.
I am otherwise qualified to hold the office of a peace officer according to the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia.
I am otherwise qualified to hold the office of a peace officer according to the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia.
I will faithfully follow the legal rules, regulations, policies, and procedures of the Dunwoody Police Department in the city of Dunwoody, Georgia.
I will faithfully follow the legal rules, regulations, policies, and procedures of the Dunwoody Police Department in the city of Dunwoody, Georgia.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Your family up.
Officer Kip, we are so pleased and honored that you have chosen Dunwoody for your professional home. Of course, we know it's the very best place to work, but we are so, yes, right. So we are so excited, though. Our community really has embraced our police department. We are here to support and offer you anything you need. Everyone is always excited to see y'all out in the field, your colleagues in the back. You're what makes us safe and keeps us confident in the security we have. And again, we know you had choices, and we so appreciate you picking Dunwoody to be your professional home. Congratulations and welcome to Dunwoody. Thank you. All right, next is public comment. I have one card. I think he's here. He's probably behind, where I can't see him, Ali. You'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you so much. Hello, Mayor, City Council. Thank you so much for what you do. Today, I wanted to speak to you a little bit about the city's finances. So a while back ago, I think I spoke to the city about different ways we might want to take advantage of the current interest rate environment. I think since then, the city has acted. I've reviewed the current financials, and I believe the city has maybe $30 million in CDs with a bank. Current interest rate is somewhere around that 2.73%, which is okay-ish for this environment, especially for corporate accounts. I reviewed some of the other business accounts, and we're getting decent interest rates. The point of what I was going to say today is the current interest rate environment, I think, would reflect around 4.25% for United States Treasury bills. And I imagine that's probably part of maybe what that other bank is doing, taking the city of Dunwoody's money, reinvesting in treasury bills or other operations of the bank, getting about 4.25% if they just dumped it in treasury bills, giving the city 3, keeping 1 for themselves. I believe the city could probably cut out the middleman, and we could maybe take advantage of that ourselves. Now, I think the city was formed somewhere around 2008-ish, 2010-ish. In that environment, obviously, it was a very scary time for virtually every business and every person. So I would assume, and I think the charter or whatnot, or at least the documents that kind of allow for what type of restrictions investments might have, might be very, very conservative. They might not even allow for something like U.S. Treasury bills or some type of money market fund or anything outside of something insured, just because that's kind of what the environment was at that time. I would ask that that be reviewed. If it is able to be amended, or if we do have maybe a finance committee can review that, maybe the city could take some of that money that are in these CDs and potentially look at investing them in U.S. Treasury bill denominations or Treasury bonds. The main thing here too is I believe Ms. Waldron will come later this afternoon and talk about the Veterans Park that we're hoping to kind of put up. I believe we got some money from the CAB, and we're trying as a city trying to put up some money to put up a really good Veterans Park, which is fantastic. Well, I don't want to jump in front of her. I'm not sure what the estimates would be, but I kind of ran the numbers and I said, let's say we do have a deficit of say $200,000 or $300,000. If we were to reallocate some of this money when they matured, take the same $30 million, get another percent out of it, another percent or a half, that would give us about 350, 400 extra thousands of dollars of interest that could be then used towards the Veterans Park. So I kind of jumbled in a lot of stuff in 3 minutes, but ultimately the point of this is asking that we potentially review some of the city documents and see if the finance committee can maybe go and invest in U.S. Treasury bills so we can get just a little bit of extra yield on the investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, reports and presentations. Jennifer Betcher, you're up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am excited to be here tonight to introduce some of the graduates of the inaugural class of Dunwoody 101 All Aboard. Based on your request, this is all because of you, we revived the Citizens Academy that we had in the early days of cityhood and decided to give it a modern twist. We created a day-long experience instead of drawing it out over several weeks. And we added a trolley ride so that we could give participants a close-up view of our parks and also the commercial developments that are driving so much of the economic development in our city. It was so popular that we had a waiting list, and all of the participants told us afterward in a survey that they would recommend Dunwoody 101 to a friend or neighbor, which is great. As a result, we are planning another one in the fall. We don't have a date yet, but we're working on it. And you can read more of the survey results in your agenda packet. We have a smaller class here tonight, not quite the 22 that who participated because of vacation schedules, but we're so grateful to those who could join us tonight to celebrate their participation and their graduation from the program. I've asked a couple of them to say a few words to you as well about their experience. So I'm going to call up Cindy Fenn and Jeannie Poster.
Well, I just want to thank you for the, just the opportunity to do this. When I saw it pop up, I immediately jumped on it. I have lived here in Dunwoody for 15 years. I've lived in Georgia for almost 40 years. But I just want to say I learned a lot just listening to just the budget. I mean, honestly, I did not know how all the money was split up, diverted. I loved being on the trolley and seeing all the new development that's coming in. Even though I live here every day, there's just a lot of things that I see and hear on social media that just was not quite what it is. But I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Jeannie Seculo Posner. I want to say it was a great experience. I've lived in Dunwoody for 29 years. Recently went on the board for the Dunwoody Homeowners Association, but I will tell you that coming to the 101 really gave me the opportunity to see how the city works and how much time and effort is going into making sure that we are going forward. And when I look at all the changes and what's happening, it's very exciting. And even the way we're looking to say, okay, we have some buildings maybe that were great in the 70s. How do we bring them up to today's, and how are we going to make this an environment where we can continue to attract new and young people? And it was just amazing. And you guys do a great job, and you deserve a raise. So I was really impressed. So thank you. And I definitely think it should be continued. So.
And we'd
Thank
love to get
you.
a picture with everyone. So if y'all will
Okay.
come on down. Ladder, brand new. Not quite in front of everybody willing to get on the top step. So let's see. Get a little bit. Hold your security. All right, everybody. No problem. Ready? Everybody look this way. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Congratulations, everybody.
Hey, Mr. Linton, city manager's report, please.
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. This is the report that concluded on June 13th, 2025. So in parks, we had over 300 guests in attendance at the annual Memorial Day ceremony at Brook Run Park. We also opened the Two Bridges Splash Pad. That's been open for the season. It's open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. through September 28th. And also we have our new program, the Take a Ball, Leave a Ball system, which is at the Brook Run Park and Parnershaw Parks. And so so far it's been a successful program to have that occur. Rush Union welcomed over 600 players to competitive team tryouts. And of that 600, about 50% of them are from the Dunwoody area. Moving into police, we have our Teen Police Academy, July 7th through the 11th. It's a 5-day program designed to strengthen the partnership between our community's youth and the police department through engaging in interactive educational experiences. Also, throughout the police reports, you'll see different things talking about fraud hits and also flock hits. I wanted to point that out
again, the success that we have of our flock system for crime. And also the crime stats comparison report for 2025, compared to 2024 through April of this year. There's a link in your report for that as well. Under Public Works, we have the Ashford Dunwoody Path and Nature Center wetlands restoration projects have been recognized for engineering excellence by the Georgia chapter of the American Society of Civil Engineers. So here again, that's amongst the peers there of engineers that both recognize both of those projects as outstanding. Also had our stormwater project manager, Javier. He was recognized as Adopt a Stream Trainer of the Year by the Georgia Environmental Protection Division. And if y'all remember, that was a new program. We waited a while to set it up correctly the way we wanted it set up, and it's already been recognized there. We also have our Dunwoody Nature Center wetland restoration. We have the last 40 feet of boardwalk. We will be completed this month. At that time, the project will be substantially complete. Department items, moving on down the line here within Public Works. We have the Eadson to Cherry Hill Path construction began earlier this month. We also have paving. We're continuing to work in the Dunwoody North neighborhood, and I appreciate all the neighbors bearing with us through the storms and different things. It was a learning experience for us on some what may be the best practices in the future. There's no doubt the roads needed to be rebuilt, and the way we rebuilt them will be fine, but the weather and having the amount of pavement that was exposed or unexposed at one time was challenging for the neighbors, and I do apologize for that to those neighbors. Also, we have, we filled about 24 potholes in May, and we have work orders issued for pavement repairs for 22 locations. It is an active program. Please go on our See-Click Fix website if you need to report any other potholes, and we'll get to those as quick as we can. Under communications, as Jennifer just mentioned, the Dunwoody 101 was a success with impressive presentations and tours by our staff, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. You have a picture here also in your report showing Jennifer and Kathy won the Hermes Creative Gold Award for Dunwoody Ribbons, which is a video highlighting Dunwoody as a prime place to do business. So that was a cool award that they have there. We also created a fraud video, and that's something we as a council spoke about a little while back, featuring Chief Carlson. And we also worked with the police to create a first Instagram warning residents about grandparent scams and that kind of how they engage with the grandparents and elderly people to try to steal money from them. So just it's an awareness. We do have our Juneteenth tent this Thursday at City Springs. This is the second year that we've sponsored Juneteenth with the city of Sandy Springs. It's a joint effort. And then we'll have our July 4th tent at the Dunwoody Village as part of the parade and those activities on the 4th of July. Under community development, the city held its annual household electronics recycling event at St. Luke's Presbyterian Church on the 18th of May. We had 362 residents were able to drop off their unused items. So here again, that program continues to be successful. Economic development, we kicked off the Dunwoody Village Urban Land Institute Technology Advisory Panel project to refocus on that area. Under finance, we have our monthly financial report this published. It's up to date on the website going through the end of March. Also, our ARPA and CARES web pages have been updated as well. So all that information is online for anybody who would like to see that. Finally, in closing with municipal court and human resources, the court has disposed of 342 cases over the past month and reset 28 cases. We also completed our GCIC, which is the Georgia Crime Information Center audit. And we have our new solicitor, Andrea Clark, has been sworn in. The city has filled the following positions, which is a detective in the SIU, a police officer, and also a PSR, which is our police service representative. So all this being said, each department works together as part of the cog in the wheel here to keep everything moving. And it all integrates together on how we can operate and improve things for our citizens in Dunwoody. With that,
I'm here as well as the staff to answer any questions y'all may have.
Catherine.
Thank you. Again, I want to ask about the maintenance shop construction. What's the timeline for the
The maintenance-
parks? Maintenance. yeah.
Maintenance shop. As Michael's coming up.
We're waiting on permits from DeKalb County for DeKalb Fire and DeKalb Water before they can get started. There are contractors ready. We just have to get those responses on the permit review from the county.
And when you do, how long to build the building?
So the total, it's gonna be probably about 8 months.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Do you need us to say something to our commissioner? Has it been that long yet?
I'll check, but it's been probably 6 weeks.
Yeah, you should probably send me an email so I can send it to Commissioner Patrick. Thank you.
I just had a question, wasn't in the report, but I know it's an ongoing project. So Rachel, how is the Peachtree Middle School turf looking and what is the plans and moving forward? What is the plan to maintain it?
Sure, yeah, we'll be pulling fencing this week. So far so good. We've done some really cool drone footage of kind of before, during, and after that we'll share just to show the difference. I've been in talk with the principal and some other members at the school. We'll probably try another week or maybe 2-week closure in October. That works with their fall break to, again, just more of this aggressive maintenance approach. We are working with the school and we're trying to look internally on if there's something we could do with permanent fencing to, again, help throughout the year, just with control and access, because that's a big part of the overuse, if you will, is nights and weekends. Keeping eyes on that, but it's looking great.
Joe.
Eric, I'd like to call out one thing that sounds really fun is Operation Brain Freeze in your report. It's put on by our Officer Hernandez, right? Teresa Hernandez, and the police staff. So I believe that through the month of July, if there's little kiddos riding their bicycles, seen around with helmets on, which they should, they're going to get a little certificate, a little coupon for a discount for, was it ice cream?
That's right.
Yes, ice cream. So what's better than that? So I just wanted to call that out as a cool one as well. I also like to mention to our folks in the audience or people seeing online that this report is available. You know, we're getting this from our agenda, right? You all know how to go to our website now, right? Look up at agendas, but you can also just jump to the city manager's webpage, you know, government, city manager, and these reports are out there too. So you can see a lot of stuff that's going on. I've got a couple of specific questions more on a couple of these projects or consulting. So the Dunwoody Village ULI advisory, such and such. Did we discuss, you know, we do a lot of things here in council. Did we discuss that when we had a joint meeting with the planning commission and the ZB and so on? What's their scope of services and what are the deliverables on that? Is that a Michael Starling?
Well,
Or
Richard's, I
okay,
think he
thanks.
does too, but Richard knows a little bit.
Thanks.
about it.
Yeah, I'd
I
like
know a
to-
little bit about it. They approached us and we agreed to collaborate with them.
Mhm.
It's just taking another fresh look at the village, seeing we could do better to get some action going up there.
I hope they're going to add in their deliverables, the financial, real world capabilities of seeing what the market will do for us in there.
Yep.
Thanks. Thanks, Richard. Eric, last question. I'm always going to repeat this every time we hear a public work project is in the pipeline. It ties into later in this agenda. We're going to talk about our capital improvement program, which I think is really great. I love to see that 5-year rollout. It's very systemic. It's very thought out. We get to prioritize it. And then we look to the funding sources. And most of that, for instance, the penny sales tax was SPOS. So the Mount Vernon Tilly Mill intersection, what I'm going to be asking Jay and the CIP is that we can try to put down what is the estimated construction date for these projects that get fully funded. So when I looked at these 5-year flows of the SPOS pay as you go, it was fully funded. It was ready for, it was fully funded as of December 31st, 2025 in what my reading of that CIP is. And so I'm going to ask you to work with staff to say, how can we be super, super proactive? I understand we're waiting on right of way or easements for Georgia Power, but you know, what's our next big project, public works project? And why aren't we working 3 years in advance with Georgia Power to get those easements acquired and so on, so that when we have the money in the bank, that we're trying to get a left turn lane installed on Mount Vernon to turn left on Tilly Mill. And that's probably going to be at least another, year from now to see that. Construction's not going to start till 2026 now, apparently. So, I'd just like to see how we can be more proactive on using our money in the bank instead of just sitting there because costs increase. And when we start doing construction, the time value of money. Okay. Thank
Fair
you.
enough. Thank you.
And thank you for your time.
Anybody else? Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Next is Jonathan with a Safe Streets Program update.
Right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am very excited to be with you this evening to give you an update on the last year, this past year of the Safe Streets program. And I have tried to condense a whole year's worth of activities and initiatives and looking forward into 10 minutes. So I'm going to do my very best. There are more slides that I'm actually going to cover in depth tonight, but I believe you have them in front of you. So if you have any questions, feel free to stop me or ask questions at the end. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump into it. So just on a high level reminder, Safe Streets program goals, I tell people kind of in a word, we want everyone to get home safe at night. That's kind of a basic human level, and a safe community is better for everybody. And here's a reminder of some of the safety emphasis areas that we're focusing on that were identified in our road safety action plan that was completed in 2023. So these have been kind of guiding a lot of our initiatives and things that we've been focusing on over the past year. So I'm going to skip over first year highlights from previously. This is my brief 8-point agenda for the past year's highlights, but I'm going to just jump straight into it. So one of the things we've been doing over the past year has been our serious injury crash reviews and our high injury network walks, made up of the road safety committee, which is made up of staff from public works, planning, and police. And this is actually, this is something that not all that many cities do, surprisingly, but it's just taking an incident where there's been a serious injury crash or fatality crash and spending the time to briefly go out in the field and look at what could be some of the things that may have precipitated this. And is there anything that we can do in the short run or in the long run that may be able to prevent similar things from happening in the future? We've already completed several follow-ups from this, a lot of really simple stuff from vegetation trimming for sight distances to refreshing striping and signing and things like that. Some really simple things that can make a difference when we're really being systematic about how we're treating these things. As well as walking some of the corridors on the identified as the high injury network in our road safety action plan. Trying to get it to advance here. Here we go. Here's another initiative we've been doing, the school safety walks in partnership with the Georgia Safe Routes to School Resource Center. These have been really cool. We've gotten to go to all 5 elementary schools in Dunwoody, including one of them was kind of a pilot as one of our high injury network walks, and really doing a lot of the same things, feet on the ground, eyes on the streets and the school areas, and identifying kind of quick fixes for ways that we can make walking and biking and even driving in the school areas safer. And built some really great relationships among the school communities, identified some quick fixes, and have already been implementing some of those. I'm just going to skip through a bunch of these, some of these kind of quick response projects. A lot of these have been identified through either the crash reviews or the high injury network walks. I'm just going to highlight a few of these specifically, and if y'all have questions about others, feel free to bring them up. Nandina Lane, I already presented on this to y'all a few months ago, but we recently completed our phase 2 of this project, where the actual realignment went in of helping tee up the drivers coming south on Nandina Lane to get that better sight distance. Everybody can see each other better at the intersection, and it's, in my opinion, it's looking great so far. And we have not heard anything negative about it so far, but it's been successfully installed. And this was one of our kind of quick action safety projects that we were able to do based on the road safety action plan. Here's another one that I'll highlight, leading pedestrian intervals. I think I may have told y'all that these were coming up at a previous presentation, but this is an intervention where you can do some simple traffic signal timing changes to give pedestrians a little head start into the intersection, just a few seconds, to help people walking be a little bit more visible in the intersection before drivers start turning across the crosswalks. We tried a couple of these initially, just one or two initially, to kind of get practice implementing them, watch how people respond to them. It was going really well, and so we actually did a systematic review of other intersections around the city and identified which ones would best fit in terms of safety need for being near a lot of pedestrian trip generators, basically reasons people are walking near schools and near shopping and parks and everything. And we identified several intersections, and this is actually old news already, because we've already now implemented this at 19 intersections around the city as of last week, which is very exciting. This is a very widespread, easy to implement treatment, and it's been shown by research to reduce vehicle pedestrian crashes at intersections by 13%, which is awesome. And so we're also still identifying or evaluating a few more potential locations, but I'm excited that we've already rolled these out at some of our highest impact locations around the city. So y'all can start noticing those. I have a list, but I won't go through all 19 right now. Let's see, I will also highlight, here's another cool one, another cool kind of quick response intervention that came out of one of our serious injury crash reviews. Sadly, there was a pedestrian who was injured in a crosswalk in this intersection, and some of the things that we observed on the ground were that there were, the geometry of the intersection has a lot of kind of unused pavement space that's not really used for deceleration, for turns, for through traffic, and it can be used to kind of encourage drivers to turn a little bit more quickly in the intersection. And we identified some quick interventions just using paint and maybe some low speed bumps that can kind of use these soft treatments to make the turning radius a little bit narrower, not so that the average driver would be even needing to go over any kind of bumps, but just kind of reclaiming some of that unused space to shorten the crossing distances and hopefully reduce some of the speeds that people are making those right turns. So this hasn't been implemented yet, but we expect hopefully at some point this year. I guess we have TBD on here officially, but this is again an example of one of those things that have come out of some of these reviews that I'm excited about.
Just real quick, Jonathan, TBD, I mean, it's in the pipeline, gonna happen, or is it still maybe? Is it a maybe or is it gonna?
We are planning to make this happen. I think we were maybe a little bit hesitant to commit to 2025, but targeting 2025. Here's another exciting one. Through conversations that I started with GDOT probably more than a year and a half ago, about their equipment purchase program, we've been able to use our road safety action plan and the recommendations in our plan to make a case to GDOT for the state to purchase some safety equipment for the city. Here's an example of some of the safety equipment that we submitted for. Another group of safety equipment features was some rectangular rapid flashing beacons. And I'm excited that after a little while of waiting, they've announced that we've been granted these safety equipment purchases. So we still are in the process of working with them on basically picking up the equipment that they bought for us and then installing it ourselves. But these are the locations where some of these traffic signal equipment is planned to go. We have, and this is kind of a little bit out of order, this is not through that program, but some recent installations of pedestrian hybrid beacons over here around the city. And then also back to rectangular rapid flashing beacons. 2 of these are locations paid for by the GDOT equipment purchase program, and then 3 more are through another GDOT program, the Safety Action Plan program, which again was made possible by us having our road safety action plan, being able to make that case to GDOT. to help go in with us on some of this safety equipment. And so you can see this is spread all around the city, very exciting opportunities around schools, around parks, around neighborhoods for making it safer to cross the street. Some of the other things we have going on, some ongoing and upcoming speed studies where staff have identified a few different corridors and in conjunction with the Road Safety Action Plan to do an engineering study and see if the existing speeds on some of these corridors combined with the existing context on some of these corridors is in alignment with the currently posted speeds or not, and if not, to make recommendations to change those. And in all these cases, the recommendation would be either to lower or to remain the same. And so our plan is to bring these back to the city manager and then eventually back to you all after the engineering study process is over to then continue the process of bringing this to the state. So it's kind of a lengthy process, but I'll go ahead and move on. We've been studying protected bike lane, kind of interim term protected bike lane opportunities as well. I won't go into too much detail here, but we've looked at opportunity or examples from some other cities like Detroit of some kind of interim implementation of small flexible posts, and looked at some opportunities for using other materials such as kind of small rubber bumps that are a little bit lower profile and maybe stand up to being to traffic a little bit better based on what we've heard from other communities. And we are working on now identifying a potential location to pilot putting something like this on a on retrofitting an existing bike lane. So I'll take questions on that. I see some eyes and some possible questions. So, and finally, I'll close with financial updates. So looking at our Safe Streets construction budget, started out with 750,000. Officially so far, only about 20,000 have hit that so far, but I wanted to kind of break down some of the other things that are in the pipeline. The Nandina Lane pilot project, a lot of those future quick build projects that were in the slides that I didn't cover every single one of comes out to about 90,000. We are also planning to apply for a supplemental planning activities grant through the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. You'll get another presentation on that later, so I won't touch on that too much here. And then also a sidewalk project on North Peachtree Road. So next steps for the program, including continuing, advancing, implementing these projects, continuing the processes that we've set up for serious injury crash reviews and high injury network walks, as well as continuing to respond to opportunities, including ones that are identified by citizens through the road safety feedback portal that we have now through SeeClickFix, as well as continuing to work on implementing those recommendations from the Road Safety Action Plan. And this is my last slide. It's not just a placeholder. I really am truly thankful for your commitment and for this opportunity to be able to support you in helping make this community safer. So with that, I will take questions if there are any.
Rob.
First off, thank you. Lots of nice little steps. I think that'll have a good cumulative impact. I did have a question about the Nandina Road project. We've made that improvement to make the intersection at Nandina and Mount Vernon safer. When I have talked to some of the business owners on Nandina, one of the concerns they've shared with me is, as a result of that, it's made the intersection of Nandina and Chambly-Dunwoody less safe because cars heading on Chambly-Dunwoody onto Nandina don't really ever yield or pay attention to cars that are making the turn to get onto there. And so I guess I'm asking, take a look at that intersection. I think that has potentially become more dangerous now. And I don't think that's what we're intending to do. So just some feedback, sharing some feedback I've gotten from some folks that have businesses over there.
Thank you. And a really quick follow-up on that. We have the last part of the Nandina Lane that hasn't actually been put out yet is up there at the Chambly-Dunwoody end. Some flashing yield signs at the particular turn that you're talking about. And we've been looking at that really closely and have collected some video data to try and really make sure that we're not, but make sure that we're addressing anything that's going on there. Great. Thank you.
Councilman Lautenbacher.
Thank you for your presentation. I love the LPIs. I noticed it on the road when you could see the walkers get their light first in just a few seconds. So it doesn't impact the drivers that much, but it lets them see the pedestrians better. That's great. Who is on your road safe committee? And you can email me if you've got a list later.
Okay.
Or I would email the council.
Okay, I can follow up.
Yep, and then the speed limits. So it's quite a thing. What you're gonna do is decide whether you wanna make them slower. And then it goes through the police department and then it goes through the DOT. Is that where it's going?
That's correct.
Okay, we had other ideas of slower streets, Peeler being one. So I would hope that they're all wrapped up together. Yeah, all right. Just wanted to check on that. Okay, thank you.
John,
Thank you, Jonathan. Can you take a look at the financial update section, your North Peachtree Road sidewalk project? Can you tell me about that one? The $500,000 one?
I would like to ask, Michael, could you speak a little bit more about this one, please?
Yeah, I also noticed that it's later in the evening. It's the one of the unsafe streets that really doesn't have a project already on it. So I'm interested from that perspective as well.
Yeah, the 565,000 is a placeholder to replace the sidewalk on the east side of North Peachtree from Dunwoody Crossing up to at least up to Chestnut. And that's based on, I think it was at the retreat, there was some council discussion about that. So we applied for a grant for that project last year and we didn't get it.
Right.
So we're proposing to just use this money to help go ahead and do that sidewalk project.
All right, thank you. I think it's an important project. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Joe. Just go, Joe.
Thank you, Jonathan. As I always repeat, public safety should be job number one of government and officials. And I really believe that safe streets and making sure that it's safe for all users and vulnerable users is important. I appreciate that. I think we're about the only city in the area outside of big Atlanta, which is huge, to have someone like you, no matter how many hours, few or so many. So I appreciate just having that extra attention to where we are and moving forward with this. I see this is not just a 3 years and done, which we used ARPA funds. We used one-time ARPA funds for this to set aside money for the 750K. And then we also set aside some ARPA funds, 1.2 million total for also payroll. So I would hope that we would continue in having someone of your stature in that role continue in the future to be proactive and to look at these things. So with that said, I would like to ask a couple of things as well. In general, the city we have a lot of slip lanes, right? So I've learned these terminologies. Right? It's basically, let's go south on Ashford Dunwoody here. Let's say we're going to go to the mall. We're going to turn right after McDonald's. That is called a slip lane when you don't have to, you basically kind of can yield. There's kind of like a right turn lane. It's kind of like you're kind of turning to the right. If you go across Lazy Dog, the same way, if I'm coming out from the Perimeter Center West, I guess that was in doing further right on Ashford Dunwoody. So a lot of those places I see pedestrians walking and I don't see drivers looking, because if I'm a driver and I'm turning right, I'm looking to the left. I'm not looking for pedestrians walking in front of me, right? That's kind of what we did at Nandina, but is there any long-term, are we looking at those slip lanes throughout the city to see how we can increase pedestrian safety and safety for all on these right turn slip lanes?
I would say yes, with a few, I guess, a little bit of background, the reconstructing an intersection corner like that, it tends to be, has a high price tag typically. That doesn't mean that it's not worth doing, but though I guess systematically eliminating slip lanes hasn't so far been, I guess, one of our top initiatives, partly just because of the cost of reconstructing corners and drainage. But one thing that we are planning to do actually you'll hear more through the Safe Streets for All grant application, is to take a more systematic look now, not just at the city, but at the high injury network, which is those corridors that have been identified through the road safety action plan as having the highest concentration and risk of not just crashes, but serious injury and fatality crashes. And what are some of the systematic things that can happen along those? I will also say on projects where, say, we're going back and building a path along the edge of the road. For example, we're in design plans right now for, as you know, for the Ashford Dunwoody cycle track. And in a lot of those places where we've got now the path, we're doing construction on the shoulders, we're rebuilding curbs, we're redoing drainage, and we are systematically looking at, does this need to be here? Should this slip lane be removed, especially if you've got trail users crossing there and things like that.
Got a second question, but follow up on the slip lanes. I'm not a professional engineer, but can you just dump some asphalt in it, make it a raised crossing for the pedestrian and still have the drainage on the two right sides with a little grate?
No.
I've seen that. I like just that conversation continuing on increasing safety. The next one, we have long decel lanes as well. Like for instance, on Mount Vernon, it's, a quarter mile long on the north side of Mount Vernon going westbound to Forest Springs. And I know long-term, we have a plan to reconfigure that part of Mount Vernon, probably maybe 4 years from now, maybe. I don't know when that was going to be built. We're continuing, it's a, multimodal, it's all these different things we're going to do on Mount Vernon out to Vermac from Mount Vernon Place. So are you looking at these long decel lanes as well to do something temporarily to increase safety, decrease? I got passed on the right driving in the morning rush hours, right? It's a school speed zone. It's 25 miles an hour, and I have cars passing me on the right, accelerating, going extremely dangerous conditions there, especially during a school when people are walking.
I think it's a good opportunity to look at for a future pilot project. We've got a lot of lanes like that in the city, and just looking at where we think we'd get the best safety benefit compared to all the other opportunities.
Tom.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of the comments I was going to make have already been addressed. I just want to add on to Catherine's comments about the speed studies. When I looked at the report and where those are being conducted, it looks like those are the focus of those are only along the high injury network. So is there the opportunity to add streets that are not on that high injury network to that study, or would that be something that would be done independently or as part of it? Because as Catherine mentioned, one of the streets is Peeler, specifically because we have basically two sections of Peeler. Specifically where we've had a lot of concern is over by the reservoir, between Winters Chapel and Happy Hollow, or really all the way down to Tilly Mills. So we'd really like to include that in a speed study, even though it doesn't appear to be on the high injury network. So is that the focus of this specific speed study report?
I guess the ones we've been putting together so far have been, I guess, the Peeler didn't end up on there because we thought that we would have a hard time getting that one through the GDOT filter, I guess, because of the existing speed, which I know is the perennial challenge, the chicken and the egg of, well, they're going too fast, so we need to slow them down. We can't change the speed limit because they're going too fast. So that's a challenge, but that was not, that was why that one we did sort of a pre-screening, and it did not seem to be an easy candidate compared to the other ones.
Okay. And just
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I guess until more infrastructure improvements come down the line, such as the path, which makes it a lot easier to make a case. Not only can you do some geometry changes out there that can help encourage lower speeds, but you can also help make a case to GDOT that you have more multimodal users, more vulnerable road users, people biking and walking out there, which can help support your case as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And just a general comment, I really appreciate the work you've been doing with the Safe Streets program. What I like about this is a lot of things, but really I'll just make 2 points, is that, it's data driven, right? So we're focusing efforts and resources into areas that are known to have problems or issues, but also being proactive, as you mentioned, in areas that have a high pedestrian usage, such as the schools and parks and shopping. So I think that's a smart use of our resources. And I think what I also like about this program is it kind of lets us know that not every project needs to be this big giant like we can make impactful changes with paint, with markings with other things, and really improve the safety. And it doesn't always have to be some big massive project. So, that incremental change in these small projects can make a big difference. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Thanks.
Let me address Peeler again. We would like to see it put forth to GDOT.
Let them reject it.
Okay.
Yeah, let them reject it, but let's have it on there. If it doesn't take too much time and money to get the information together to put it forth, we would like that.
I'll work with the other staff on addressing that.
Anybody else? So I wanted to talk a little bit about the speed limit changes, and I saw if you'll go back to the list, maybe not, I know what they were. But I wanted to point out that Brookhaven just had 4 big streets have their speed limit reduced, not even Peeler caliber, bigger than that, including Ashford Dunwoody Road inside the perimeter, Johnson Ferry Road, which is obviously everything's inside the perimeter. But what strikes me is that part of the problem on Peeler is that Winters Chapel has a really high speed limit, and people coming down Winters Chapel, either they make a super fast right and they don't slow down, or if they get a green light and they're turning left, they don't slow down. And so it seems to me that in this process, we ought to be looking at Winters Chapel, which also we built sidewalks, right, across Winters Chapel, and some wider sidewalks, but sidewalks, especially on our part, is at least one direction. And it feels like that's where we should start over there. Like we should do Peeler and Winters Chapel, because Winters Chapel is probably one of our most pedestrian heavy roads and routes, with people literally walking to Walmart to get their groceries and all that. And then the cars are coming off, particularly PI, whatever we call it now, Peachtree Boulevard, PIB. They come off PIB. If they don't hit a stoplight, and there's not a lot of stoplights, I don't think, between PIB and Peeler, they don't have a reason to slow down. And then they make that left if they, again, don't hit the stoplight, and they never slow down. And so it feels like that if they can I realize that every street is unique and different, but if they can get a Harts Mill lowered, it feels like we should be able to get a Winters Chapel lowered. So if we could include that, or at least look at it, because I do think that in some ways that's a big part of the challenge on Peeler. And then also I hope we've consulted with Brookhaven, or we've at least looked at what they filed to see how they were successful, because with the exception of, well, I don't know, but I guess half these schools, 2 of the 4 have schools on the route and 2 don't. So if we could just look at how they were successful, and
I don't think that they are successful yet. I think
they are.
they're putting it forth to GDOT. That's
No,
what
they've
they're,
already,
I think they,
I read it wrong. No, it says these changes will be effective. It's been approved by GDOT.
GDOT said yes.
Yes, GDOT said yes, in June 25. They just said yes. Oh, so they did. So the first 30 days, the next
Okay.
30 days are, yes, thank you.
Okay, good.
My head gets confused, but yes. So I'd like to see how they were, I'd like you to see how they were successful, and for us to look holistically at some of these situations where, the speeders are coming from a different street. And also, thank you for including the North Peachtree Sidewalk Project, because that's really important. Thank you. Okay, thank you for your time, Jonathan.
Thank you all.
Okay. I think you have to read it, right?
The next item on the agenda is our second public hearing for establishing the 2025 millage rate. Delisha Robinson.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Here to discuss the 2025 millage rate. I will show a brief presentation followed by public comments and any questions, comments from council that you may have. First, we wanted to start by saying the state law requires cities to hold 3 public hearings, stating they are increasing taxes. This hearing is the second of the 3, even though the city is not raising its property taxes at all. It will stay at the 3.04 millage rate. It even reduces automatically to 2.04 for homesteaded properties. The city has assessed the tax freeze and it's in place. So if the county appraiser raised the home values, your city taxes do not go up. Currently, there are 10,868 homes here in Dunwoody that will have no increase in city taxes this year. That's over 85% of the homes here in the city that have applied for and have been approved for this homestead exemption. So once again, if the value of their property goes up, their taxes do not. The remaining 15% will be mostly fall under like rental properties or second homes, things of that nature. So the 3 hearings rule comes up because Dunwoody kept the rate the same, but it's above the state's rollback rate. It works like this. 2024 rate was 3.04 mils. The worth of commercial properties and non-homestead reassessments were worth 0.106 mils. So the state says that the rate should be reduced to 2.934, which is the rollback rate, offsetting commercial and non-homestead properties. The reason behind this law was for cities that don't have property assessment freezes like the city of Dunwoody. All of the required public hearings will be held here at City Hall. We had our first hearing this morning at 8 a.m. to accommodate our citizens who have obligations in the evenings, either with work, school, or with their family. We will have our third public hearing meeting in a couple of weeks on Monday, June 30th at 6 p.m. And just note that all of your council members are available via email if you have any additional questions in between that time. And you can find that on dunwoodyga.gov. So state law also requires the city to issue a press release and place advertisements in the local newspaper. This notice is one of the required advertisements by state law. The language in this notice is dictated by state law, so we're not allowed to change any of its wording. And let me also add that if we have to submit our ads notices to the county, and we have to make sure we followed all the requirements. So if the ad are not published in a certain time frame, that could be an issue. If they're not at the right size in the publication, or they're located in the wrong area of the publication, that would be an issue. And we would have to start this whole process over again. So it'd be 6 meetings instead of 3. Also in that ad for the notice of property tax increase, below are the background numbers required in the advertisement shown on the last slide. The number has to be shown without the freeze in place. So the typical 600,000 valued home in the advertisement will show a $24 increase. But in the real final bill, this increase would be 0 for all the homestead properties. But once again, we're not allowed to calculate that assessment freeze in this advertisement. State law also requires the advertisement of the text digest for 5-year history. This required advertisement makes things even more confusing as it ignores the rollback. This is just a raw year-over-year number of the text digest we received from the county. However, it does show the increase coming from commercial properties, newly sold homes, and rental properties. And this is just the typical tax bill for a Dunwoody home using the 2024 rates. The vast amount goes to the school system at roughly 80%. In the top right corner, you'll see 5% goes towards city operations. The city's general fund budget was passed in October 2024, but like all municipality budgets, it's adjusted based on current revenue estimates. This is the 2025 general fund revenue budget pie chart. This chart shows many sources of revenue, with property taxes having the higher percentage at 35.7%. And the estimated revenue budget will be adjusted as needed. This is the 2025 general fund expense budget. And as you can see, public safety is the largest expense at 38.6%, followed by parks and recreations, and then public works. In conclusion, staff recommends adoption of the rate of 3.04 mils at the June 30th meeting after the 3 public hearings and adjusting the revenue accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, unless there's an objection, I will open the public hearing. I see no objection. The public hearing is open. I am looking for people who would like to speak for, in favor of maintaining the 3.04 millage rate first, if you'd like to speak for maintaining it. All right, if you would like to speak in, I'm sorry, Zach, I'm sorry. Again, when people sit behind the post, I cannot see you. I do not have Superman vision. All right, Mr. Humphreys, you'll have up to 10 minutes. Just please introduce yourself and go ahead.
Yes. Hi, my name is Zachary Humphreys. I am a Dunwoody resident, been a Dunwoody resident since 2008. Grew up here. I really appreciate that our council. So I do a lot of historical work here in Dunwoody. And I was looking at this one time in 1971 when Dunwoody tried to incorporate. It actually was very interesting in that the hidden branches were going to be used as the center for where the city was going to incorporate, because it legally couldn't incorporate because this place was just farmland. And what they were going to do was they were going to charge only $10 per household in yearly taxes for the city. And believe it or not, it failed because this, they couldn't even afford the police. I see a council that has a vision and a bigger Dunwoody than, not only just, low taxes and, maybe a police, but one that strives for parks and paths and public services and public safety and all of these wonderful things. And so, and that requires people to pay taxes for those things. And, Dunwoody is more than just low taxes and police. And I certainly support our police. But, y'all have a greater vision than that. And y'all should be given the budget for the greater vision than that. And our public employees do so much for this community and for the greater city of Dunwoody in general. And, y'all should have that 3.04. And, I want y'all to get more, but, military cap. But thank you all for the wonderful job that you do for this community. And I stand by, by myself and alone, but anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for maintaining the 3.04 millage rate for the next tax cycle? All right, seeing none, I invite anyone who would like to speak in opposition of maintaining it. You'll come on up, Mr. Hickey. If anybody else wants to line up behind you or stand up when you complete, if you leave some time, there'll be 10 minutes for this side as though there was for the other one. Jessica, can you let us know when you're ready? You ready? Okay.
Before I start, Madam Mayor, can I find out if I have the whole 10 minutes?
Oh,
or
certainly.
someone behind me?
Is anybody else going to want to speak? I don't see anybody else, so.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Madam Mayor and Council, good afternoon, good evening. Been a long day, I understand, since this morning. We appreciate your time. My name is Bob Hickey. I'm a citizen of Dunwoody and have been for over 50 years. I'm at this public hearing tonight to offer my thoughts on the proposed 9.06 increase in property tax, which results in $1,073,835 more revenue from the city from property tax holder or from property tax sources. Let me repeat at the outset, as I said this morning, an overwhelming majority of my fellow citizens and I are opposed to this property tax increase. A very small amount of the increase in property taxes will directly affect homeowner citizens. Homeowner citizens, that's the 10,000 number that was referred to in the city slide. But 100% of the increase will indirectly, 100% of the increase will indirectly affect all citizens. The increase directly impacts new homeowners, such as our police chief. All renters will have to pay extra taxes when their lease requires an increase because of property taxes, and all businesses in the city of Dunwoody. All of us know that when a business receives a cost increase, they pass it along in their prices, plus extra for their margin, to us people who are consumers of the shops in Dunwoody. I have been at public hearings for the past 13 years, as I said this morning. The meetings have been a lot at 8 o'clock like this morning. And unfortunately, there's no more people going to speak out today than there was this morning. The mayor and the council, you should be ashamed of your actions, as I said this morning, on establishing an 8 o'clock meeting, an unfriendly time to have a public hearing. Myself and one other citizen were the only people there this morning. We deserve more convenient times for the right to participate in public hearings. Most of you this morning shared my concern that the data presented on these slides was very confusing. Nobody can understand it. The city staff had a hard time explaining it. But rather than clarify the data, most of you were saying you blame the state of Georgia, as the staff person did, for creating these confusing laws. I take a contrary position. I say, thank God for the state of Georgia. Otherwise, we would have no data, okay? And the public hearing would probably be in Dahlonega, okay, as opposed to City Hall. No Dunwoody citizen can understand the data that has been presented to us in these two publications. You need to get it modified to where the average everyday citizen can understand what is going on in the property taxes. Now let me get to the substantive reasons for my objections to this unneeded property tax increase. The city has a very clear, uncontrolled spending issue. The total spending from the city has increased from 41.7 million in 2019, the pre-pandemic year, to 64.7 million in 2025. That's total city revenue. That's what you control, not just the general fund. You control $64.7 million in 2025. That's an increase of 60%. City population, okay, has increased from 51,683 in 2020 to an estimated 58,680 in 2025, an increase of only 14%. You're spending 60% more money and the population has only gone up 14%. Now, I recognize that the population number, as somebody said this morning at the meeting, increases in a daytime rate, at a daytime level of much more than the 58,000. But I think it would have been the same relatively numbers, okay, pre-pandemic as it is today, except for the vacancies in the commercial spots. Spending has increased 22.9 million in the last 5 years. 22.9 million total city revenue, total city expenditures. It would take 21 years of property tax increases like that proposed in 2025 to make up for this rampant spending increase. Okay. old Bob ain't gonna be here in 21 years to say, city council, we need to control expenses. I mean, I don't think I will be. I'll be in the century mark. Our city has a diverse population, very diverse. About 13% of the population are old guys like me. And most of us old guys, okay, live on a fixed income. I tell my buddies, I don't have a fixed income. I have no income, okay? I have only my savings to draw upon. While it's disputed, about another 25% live in the below poverty levels, okay? 25% below poverty, 13% old guys, okay, and girls, okay? Both of these groups will have a major struggle, major struggle to be able to pay for their bills even before these tax increases, okay? The tax increases don't help. The city has a spending issue, not a revenue issue. The city needs to prioritize needs and get spending under control. I say reduce the millage rate to the approximate 2.8 mils, and I think that's maybe a little bit different as pointed out this morning, to maintain the same property taxes at the same amount as last year on the same properties. I say vote no on the 3.04 millage rate. Thank you very much for your service. We appreciate it very much. I'll submit this statement for the public record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey. Would anyone else like, Jessica, is there time remaining? Okay. If anybody else would like to speak in opposition of maintaining the millage rate at 3.04, you may approach the microphone. There are 3 minutes left. Seeing none, I end the public hearing and close the public hearing. And then Ms. Robinson, if you'll come back for questions from us. Anybody have questions? No. Okay. I want to make an observation, if that's okay, because there are people here. To your point, Mr. Hickey, 8 o'clock this morning, before people went to work, the two of you came. 6 o'clock tonight, when people ended long after their workday, the two of you came. You and I can debate, how do you get more people to a meeting over coffee or something? So I want to talk a little bit about commercial property taxes, just very briefly. So today, this morning, after your statement, your public comments, Mr. Hickey, and also because I got an email, I was curious about what our neighbors do. We know that we have the lowest aggregate tax rate for homeowners. We're the only city in Georgia that has both a freeze and a 1 mil exemption for homeowners. The 1 mil exemption, Mr. Hennigan can explain sometime, was kind of to fix something that then DeKalb County fixed. So we're kind of double dipping there, but whatever. So I started looking at commercial property taxes because I wasn't sure what I was going to find. And so what I found by looking at our competitors, which is Brookhaven, Sandy Springs, the city of Atlanta, and Alpharetta for good measure, that we also have the lowest commercial millage rate. In some cases, really significantly. To the south, Brookhaven has a 4 mil special service district on top of their regular 3.0 millage rate for the special service district is just for the commercial district. So while I understand people's concerns, the commercial sector also uses services at a rate that's much greater than homeowners use services. And the truth is when the city was forming in its early days, though I wasn't directly involved, there was a lot of chatter about borders and where we were going to start, where we're going to start and where we're going to end. And there were concerns, right, about if you took a large district like Perimeter, which at the time of the recession wasn't necessarily generating very much revenue, how are you going to support it? And so service delivery is really important. But I was fascinated to learn that in Atlanta, I didn't do a deep dive, so I could be wrong, but it looks like the millage rate in the city of Atlanta, if you're in the Fulton section, is 20 mils for commercial. So there's a we're a lot lower than Brookhaven. We're almost 2 mils lower than Sandy Springs. And I even compared it with our county taxes millage rate figured in. So, because I'm always looking, right, to see how we're doing compared to our neighbors. And so I appreciate your presentation. I look forward to the final one in a couple of weeks. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I have a motion to
I
amend the
closed the
consent
public
agenda.
hearing earlier.
With it.
Didn't I close the public hearing earlier? Okay, go ahead. Yes,
I would like to make a motion to remove item number 11 from the consent agenda.
and make it the new something, move it to under business. Okay,
Second.
second. All right, any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any questions on the consent agenda? Does anybody have questions on any of the items? All right,
Move to approve.
moved by Stacy.
Second.
Second by Rob. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously.
Ready?
Yes.
All right.
Wait, Sharon, do you
oh.
get to read this one? Because it's an action item. I don't know.
The next item was just moved.
No, he's doing
Like,
13, I think.
Either way.
I just.
Oh, are you doing both of them, Michael?
No.
Right, that's why I thought okay, whatever.
Yeah, I
Cody,
just
come
moved
up.
it down one.
Okay,
So, so I moved it down one, Cody.
Okay.
Funding authorization for stormwater construction for Wildcat Learning Center, Cody Dallas.
Hello, everybody. So this, as you just voted, was originally on consent. We moved it to business. That was due to not having the estimate yet from our contractor, Dickerson Group. As y'all may be aware, there were some, coordination efforts where we said, okay, well, we're going to pay for this for stormwater and determining what that would actually cover and who was going to do that and how we were reimbursing. The estimate needed to be refigured, but we have the estimate now, and it is the same as the memo that was submitted, how that outlines it. So if you have any questions about how we're dividing up the tasks.
does anybody have any questions? Catherine?
Hi, Cody. I know that the Nature Center is anxious to get this done. What does your timeline look like if we were to approve it tonight?
I believe that they are, but they are ready to essentially start putting up security fences and really we would need to go first anyhow for the stormwater.
Before they do,
portion.
yes.
Right, but we just had a meeting at 3:30 earlier today and with all the contractors and with the Nature Center, so they're ready.
Okay, thank you.
Stacy,
Move to approve.
Second.
any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Michael.
Item number 13 is essays for a grant application for corridor study. Michael Smith.
Yes, the request this evening is for the council to authorize staff to apply for a federal Safe Streets for All grant and provide the $50,000 match that's required, the local funding. We applied through this program last year for the implementation or construction grant for the North Peachtree Sidewalk project. And what we learned through that process is, one, the construction funding there's a lot less of it relative to the requests they get, so it's very competitive. And then also one of the things they look at is the crash history, the number of fatalities, serious injuries. And fortunately for Dunwoody, we actually don't have a lot of those compared to a lot of other places. So this year we want to apply again, but we think it's a better strategy to go for planning dollars, which there's a lot more of relative to the number of requests they receive. And one of the recommendations in our road safety plan is to do safety audits on our high injury network, which are the corridors we identified through that safety plan as having the highest rate of crashes. So if you think about the road safety plan, it was high level, looking at the crash trends and identifying kind of the hot spots, and that's where the high injury network came from. These safety audits and analysis would be drilling down on those corridors and looking at crash patterns and really digging into the actual crashes themselves to see if there's patterns and things that may be addressed through improvements or different strategies. So we're recommending to apply for this. And as I said, the required match will be 50,000, which was built into that funding table that Jonathan showed earlier, using the ARPA funds to provide the local match. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Go ahead.
So Michael, we've had this conversation going from the mayor as well. This is federal funding. But this is going to be discretionary funding rather than the formula funding that we get through GDOT, correct?
That's true. This will come straight from USDOT.
Right. So just to let everybody know, and you also told us that it's a pay-as-you-go model. We basically would, if let's just say right now we're going to obligate 50K. When do we need to write the check for the 50K? When we receive? Yeah, just tell me that one.
Yeah, the way these work, they're usually reimbursement grants. So we actually spend the money. We would have an agreement up front. Like if we get awarded a grant, we would have an agreement with USDOT to allow them to provide the money. But as far as we would actually spend the money and then we request reimbursement. Most all of our grants, especially federal grants, work on a reimbursement basis.
Before we submit this, I know this is going to be probably a lot of due diligence from a small city like us compared to the entire USDOT regarding discretionary funding in the current situation. Do we know where cities have lost their local match funding, where they spent their local money and then they were given a letter from DOT saying they were going to get the payback, but they have not?
I'm not aware of anything like that. I think, once you have an agreement, I mean, they award the grant, but then there's an agreement that it's basically an intergovernmental agreement that they're saying they're going to pay you the money. So I'm not aware of anything being clawed back at that point. I do know, I mean, this program, they did send out some information that the current administration has already taken a look at this program, and they made a few changes to the focus and what they want to spend the money on, but there was no indication in the notice of grant that there was a chance that it was going to go away. But
yeah. Okay. In general, though, obviously the money is a concern if it's discretionary, and I think there's still, you hear things that can just be dropped immediately and you don't know. But I do appreciate the analytical, systemic look at the high injury network and so on. And with the liaison primarily, so this would be a consulting, we would bring in a firm to do
Yes.
this external,
Yeah.
and then be liaison with your department and other departments?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is an action item.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion or comments? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? I think I heard everybody. That passes unanimously. Thank you.
thank you. And I think I'm next too.
Yes.
This is a discussion item. We've been under contract with Triscapes for several years for road and stormwater maintenance. We originally piggybacked on a contract that Milton had competitively procured. And that contract, our Dunwoody's contract runs through September of this year. There are some provisions in the base contract for being able to extend it for up to 2 years. And so we've worked with Triscapes and they've given us a proposal to continue providing the service, which we've been satisfied with at a new rate. The original contract had rates specified for the first 5 years. There was basically an initial year and then a 1.5% markup for the subsequent 4 years. But after year 5, there was no pricing in the contract. So we have to negotiate a price if we want to continue forward. And they have proposed a larger increase than in previous years, but we've checked with current or a couple of nearby cities that are also using Triscapes for the same service. And we've confirmed that the price they provided is market rate. It's actually a little slightly lower than a couple of our neighbors. And I think the big increase for this year is just because they were locked in the rates from 2020 and there's been a lot of inflation since then. So we do feel like it's a fair rate for the next year, and we would like to request extension of the contract.
Go ahead.
I mean, I understand the rate increase. I guess I was wondering why they're tacking on a $20,000 increase for the current fiscal year.
No, what I was saying there is since the current contract runs through September, if we extend it, the last 3 months of this year would be billed at the new rate. So, and the overall, because it's only part of the year, the overall impact of the budget is 20,000
And those
split.
last 3 months are still in this fiscal year.
Yeah,
Got it.
right.
Okay.
John, go ahead. All right.
Michael, we have a tendency of rebidding out contracts. We have large contracts that are coming due. Those all were sent out for rebid. Why would we not do the same thing here? Is there not somebody else besides Triscapes? When does it make sense to go do an RFP and ask the big question, who else can do the service at the same price? Or
Yeah, I mean, well, certainly the most we could extend this is for this year and next year, and then we would definitely need to rebid it at that point. We just felt like at this point, they're providing good services. We know we're getting a good rate based on comparing with other cities. And each time we have bid this out, the number of contractors that are interested in doing this or can do this well has dwindled over the years. One of the cities we talked to, I don't remember which one it was, but I think the last time they bid it out, they only got one proposal. So I mean, I'd say if you get three qualified proposals for this, you're doing really well. So I think just based on the limited pool of contractors and being able to confirm that we're paying a fair price, we wanted to just extend it a year.
has the scope gone up at all? I'm thinking the new signage around town that has some landscaping around it, some grass. Is there any updated tasks that they're giving us for this increased price?
No, not for this one. Now, they also have a landscape and park maintenance contract with us. And so when we do add, new streetscape or the landscape around the signs, that scope will increase over time. And I'm not sure when that contract's up for renewal again, but they're a separate contract on a separate timeline. But it's with the same company.
All right, so we're doing the same company, same service at a higher cost.
That's what this is, yes.
Thank you.
Catherine.
Does this service contract include this emergency response? Is it kind of a blanket payment that isn't then added onto?
The base contract includes, providing 2 crews and equipment every day to do stormwater and road maintenance. Any kind of emergency response is separate. It's billed as an hourly response as needed.
Well, how much did we pay, let's say in the last year, in addition to the contract?
I'd have to look that up. It's not a lot because most of the time the emergency services are for tree services, which is a separate contract. So for this, it's mainly going to be snow, like when we have a snow event. And if we have something where we need to put barrels and barricades out, we have to close the road separate from like a tree event. But I can look up how much we spent in the last year on that and have it next meeting.
All right, thank you.
Have we looked at cost benefit of bringing this in-house? I know there's a lot of equipment and capital outlay initially, over a, say, like a 5-year ROI or something.
I mean, we haven't done a detailed analysis, but I would say, I mean, my recommendation would not be to bring it in-house because of all the equipment that's needed, and then you have to have somewhere to store it, and then you have to maintain it. And then it's also hard to find good people to do this kind of work. So I think it would create a lot of extra burden for the city, I think, to bring it in-house.
It might be helpful for us, if possible, for you to jot some other numbers in here when we have it again, the memo that shows kind of what other cities are paying, maybe. It might not be apples to apples, but just if y'all can figure out some way to show us. No doubt that costs for labor have gone up and everything else, so I'm not surprised about that. When we've had an exceptionally busy weather-wise, at least the last few months, maybe actually starting with the tornado at the end of last year. So when that comes from a different budget.
All the tree work comes from a different budget. Yes.
So even if somebody from Triscapes is the one who gets up at 2 o'clock in the morning because a tree is down, that's a separate budget.
Yeah, yes, what I should say, it's still general fund, but we have an account
Okay.
for road maintenance, and that account is for storm response or storm damage.
And have we exceeded that budget for this year?
I don't think we've exceeded it for this year yet, but we definitely exceeded it last year.
Okay.
We have a lot of trees that come down.
We do. It's been incredible. It's just been incredible. They just seem to fall. So, okay. All right. Yeah. So if you could just bring us back data.
Sure.
Appreciate that. Okay, Mr. Vanicki.
No, Rachel.
No, Rachel, you're right. Oh, yeah, sorry. I jumped ahead. Jumped ahead in my.
Good evening. So we're back tonight for the Veterans Memorial. I've been working with our program manager, CPS, who's here with me tonight to get our firm pricing for this project. Again, just overall, I know we've been talking about it for a while, but just again, a brief summary about why this project is so important. Things have actually progressed. We weren't able to open the memorial this past May for the ceremony. Because now there is a small leak in the roof, so it's taken on water. So fortunately, we weren't able to open it as we normally do during the ceremony. But again, a very important project. It will connect to the existing Vietnam Memorial. Our vision is to really set the tone in Brook Run, as that's our memorial plaza. So bringing everything together between the two concepts. Again, I've got my team here tonight to talk details on pricing, but what we're looking at right now is about $489,000 for this project, and this would be for that concept we've shown to the veterans what y'all have seen, where it's the eternal flame in the middle, the branches of service surrounding, with the addition of Space Force.
You walk up to the plaza with the Soldiers Cross, additional benches and lighting and landscape, just a very pretty Memorial Plaza, and then of course the sidewalk that connects to the Vietnam War Memorial. We've discussed, revamping the brick program. Hopefully we can kind of amplify that as we get going. There's already been some requests for like the Adopt-A-Bench program extending to that. People are very excited about opportunities on, kind of leaving their mark on this Memorial Plaza, if you will. But what we've put together, worked with finance, is similar to what we did for the City Hall HVAC, proposing 3 options for funding, as I do understand this is a high price tag. So what you have in front of you are the 3 options. One would be paying for this out of the capital project fund, just the general repair and improvement. And what you see there is the number of where we are right now, a little over $1 million. Option 2 would be the unallocated capital, the Shuttlefoot Road proceeds. And that will leave us, right now we're about 1.3 million for that fund balance. And then unassigned, we're looking at that $28 million figure. So again, this is a very open-ended discussion on how we'd like to proceed with funding. We are looking tonight for guidance on which of those options you would like to see for this. If you have questions about how we got to this number, I've got my CPS team here. They've worked very hard on getting this to where it needs to be. But myself or Eric Johnson would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have questions or want to share their preferred funding options? What?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I wanted to talk about the funding.
Well, of course.
Yep. Did you, beyond just the bricks and maybe the benches, is that what is offered for public funding? Is it maybe, do you offer support, sponsoring the flame, something like that, some bigger ticket items?
We could, and that I kind of was prepared for that to be part of the conversation tonight. If we needed to do some fundraising using these funds, really the floor is kind of open for, because I think someone said at the retreat, there's only so many bricks. Selling bricks wouldn't necessarily get us $500,000 figure.
Right.
But I think there would always be an opportunity to, expand that program, working with the VFW, similar to what they did with the Vietnam Memorial, those donor walls. There's different sizes, different prices. That's how they were able to fundraise that piece.
They did it all through
They did a
bricks.
lot of fundraising, a lot of kind of pro bono
No,
work.
they had a
for
lot of
different
in kind.
vendors.
Yeah. There are only so many benches. It's a very small area. I think that
Yeah.
you would put benches around.
We could do a couple,
Right.
but it's, yeah.
Well, maybe the flame. Maybe somebody sponsors a flame.
I mean, you could almost build it and then simultaneously market the naming opportunities.
Yeah, for sure.
And then reimburse ourselves
Right.
because it's probably time to get this done because Veterans Day is in November. Do we have an estimate, if I miss it, of how long this will take once we start?
3 months.
Okay, so we have time. Okay, go ahead.
So as far as the funds, the staff option 1, 2, 3, I'd look at the first word on each one of those is general. And I'll just ask Eric, because right now it's just an accounting line item, because it's not looking at like moving a SPOS to general fund or it's a hotel motel. So to me, it's general is general is general. Right. So what do you recommend, Eric?
No, yeah, my recommendation is to use part of our fund balance, pay for it. Of course, that will be, finance will allocate that into a line item for capital. So that'll be moved from unallocated fund balance, the option 3, and then we will go from there and put it into a budget for this project, because it'll have to be budgeted for that, but it'll follow that guideline. And I would recommend, if you want it open for Veterans Day, that I would go ahead and try. I mean, we have to, it's not an action item tonight, but have it on the next agenda and then be ready to let the contract. And also there is an estimate here, and I believe, Rachel, do you want Mr. Johnson to speak a minute about the process he went through, or y'all went through
Sure.
to do that? Our CPS, somebody from CPS, Because I think it's important when they can bring it back up, because that is a great deadline. There is time, but we're going to have to approve it in the next meeting or two.
Good evening. So yes, we did work with Headley. There you go. Is that better? Yeah, thank you. We worked with a construction manager, Headley, and they put it out to the trade market to bring in pricing. So they were having trouble getting a lot of competitive bids. That's something we're seeing with a lot of projects, especially at a lower dollar value. So the prices we have here today are not going to be guaranteed for 90 days, 120 days, right? So your point about fundraising and then reimbursing would definitely be preferred, because if you wait 3 months, all of the money that you wanted to save by fundraising would probably be eaten up by escalation or market trends. So we did work with them to put together these prices, and they do include the contingencies for both the city and through the construction manager.
Go ahead, Rob.
I guess I had a follow-up, since Eric had recommended option 3. Just for the other options, option 1, if that's the route we used, what are we bumping from the repair and improvement list by using these funds?
Well, and that's anything you move money there, you are taking it from one area and putting it in another. The bottom line is this: you do have some surplus of funds. To me, it doesn't matter which one it comes out of, because we're all going to set it in its own budget. I would just use it out of the general unassigned fund balance, where I would take it from. Because any of the other ones, to your point, yes, you have to reallocate and move. It's at the end of the day, it's all the same thing.
Okay, go ahead, Stacy.
I know that this is a discussion item, but I also know that we can make it a business item, and knowing that we would very much, this has been a long time coming. It's been in discussion for a long time. We finally have a contract that we can bid. And if we want to have it done by November, I guess I'd like to move that we make this a business item tonight.
Can we make this a business item? I don't think so.
Mayor, you'd have to amend the agenda to do that.
But it's not an emergency.
That's council's prerogative.
I make a motion that we move this to a business item.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion on the motion?
I'm trying to figure out what to say here. I'm in favor of the project. I don't want to set a precedent of jumping project ahead. I'm a little reluctant to move it just because I think waiting to the next meeting to me is not that big a deal. My preference would be to let's just follow our normal process and approve it, even if we just put it on consent next time. Just my personal opinion.
All right, I'll call the question. All in favor of moving this to an action item, say aye. Raise hands, please. All oppose, raise hands. Nay. So that passes 4-3. Did I count that right? Okay, if you were for making this an action item, raise your hand. Okay, did you get that? Stacy, Tom, Rob, no, I'm sorry, forget it. Stacy, Joe, Catherine, and Tom.
Madam Mayor, is that for consent for the July
No,
14th?
no, this is, they want to
Yeah.
vote on it tonight. Okay. All right, now, before we move to vote on it, we need to give staff guidance on how we're paying for it. John has his hand up, sorry.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, looking at the 3 options that we have in front of us, two of them are capital projects and one is the general fund. The metrics to me tells me that why would we be pulling from the general fund when the optics of this community is that we have funding issues with the general fund? I think we have capital funds that are budgeted and allocated and for projects just this is a capital project. Why would we not use the capital project funds? I don't understand why we would choose the general fund. To me, it's the optics. It's all money, but this is capital money for a capital project, and this is a capital project. I wouldn't understand why we would use the general funds.
If you'd like, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, if you would like, we can have our finance director come up, he can be more of an expert on the funding source.
And while he's coming up, I have to ask a question. So when I went back and looked at what our budget was last year after hearing something in public comment. And our non-capital budget last year, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, I actually have it in front of me. Our approved budget was around $30 million. Is Richard coming?
Yes,
I'm sorry, it was 37 million, but that included the Shallowford cell, correct? Or something?
Are you talking general fund for?
Yeah, general fund for
2024
20,
Or 2020?
yeah, it was 20. Oh, I see the Shallowford fund. What, so it was $37 million last year, correct? Was our approved
Yes.
expenditures last year. Okay, so right now we're saying that we have essentially 20, we're estimating 29 million in general fund revenue, a balance, fund balance. So how many months is that?
That would be.
I guess I could do the math, 3.7. Or like 7, 8, 10 months. Not quite, no, not quite 3, maybe 8. Mhm.
So at the end of 2024, we finished about 11 months fund reserved.
Okay, so that's where we are today, probably.
And then we factored in we saw a year-over-year increase in
Right.
expenditures plus the use of fund balance in 2025, about $1.3 million. So that's how we finish, that's how we're projected currently to finish 2025 with $28.7 million in fund balance.
And that's about 11 months still? 10?
10, 9 and a
Okay,
half to
but
10.
that also doesn't reflect the new information from the property tax digest, or does it?
It does not.
Okay, all right. It doesn't matter to me where we get the money. We just have to give staff guidance.
If I could also, if there's a, per John's question, if we want to make a motion to move the money from the general fund into the capital fund prior to making this motion, we could make that accounting change. It's a debit and credit. It's a GO accounting line item. So either way, it's kind of like when we went back and had the storage building that we approved. We got those from other buckets as well. So, the spirit of it,
Right.
I'd like to see it come to fruition.
And Mayor, two things. If y'all do make a motion to approve, Joe's correct in terms of it does require a budget amendment, and you can make that part of your motion to amend the budget. Number one. Number two is I want to put a line in there that is subject to final legal review because I want to be sure that that's done. So those are the only two pieces I wanted to add in there.
Okay.
As far as which item, 1, 2, or 3, that's strictly up to y'all.
Is the on option 2, is the unallocated capital really unallocated?
Yes, that is correct. So
Okay,
that,
let's just do 2. Let's just do 2. Let's just do 2. It's clean. It's good. Okay. All right. So now there's no motion on the floor, but is everybody pretty comfortable with 2? Okay, thank you. All right. Capital for capital, and then we will be able to legally, we'll be able to reimburse if people buy benches or bricks or sponsor the flame. Okay. All right. And I just want to point out to the community that Sandy Springs raised like $600,000, so much money for and that wasn't, they built the park. And then the monument stuff was raised by donations. So I think we can figure out a way to have the community have an opportunity. People look for opportunities to remember their loved ones. No, it was not. Go ahead.
I'll move to approve the contract to Headley Construction, subject to final legal review for the construction of the Brook Run Veterans Memorial, and with funds payable from option 2, the General Capital Project Fund.
Second.
Any further discussion or comments? I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay.
Everybody's taking a small stretch break right now. Mayor, City Council, we will, while everybody is stretching and moving around, I get to do mine in the back. This is just basically a CIP, and I'm calling it a refresh, and it's a growth out of the retreat back in February, or March, whenever we had the retreat. Part of this was every so often, the city has started over the past 5 years growing a CIP plan. If you go back 6 years, we didn't have a CIP, but now we've got a full-fledged one that is fully funded and has a planning effort. But one of the things we're getting into is, when do we go back and look at the things that are not on it? So part of the goal tonight is to describe what we've done over the past 5 years and talk about next steps. So with that, this shows how it was grown out of this. Tonight is not a re-ranking of projects. It's also not a night to go through the status of each project, but that will be at a later date. This is to set the table for that. Staff is recommending at the end of this a formal review as a part of the 2026 budget process. So when the council receives the budget process, there's a full 2 months of things that can be done to it, and we recommend focusing on the CIP for this upcoming year. Let's go through a little timeline of which everyone on the council is very familiar with, going back to 2021. That's when the first council approved CIP plan. Now, before that, there were other plans, but they weren't funded. There were council working groups that grew out of that. In 2022, a capital citizen prioritization committee. In 2022, we also had numerous town halls and meetings, which all of us were there for. We developed a trail master plan in conjunction with this. In 2022, 2023, the Citizen Capital Committee came up, called for a bond vote and referendum in 2023. And in 2024 and rolling, the CIP is updated. The last formal update was in October of 2024. It's the budget that we're operating under now. So let's talk a little bit about creating the CIP. 2021, the first CIP was actually created by council. Before then, the city would approve annual rolling budgets. We'd say, oh, this year we're going to do this. We kind of knew we were going to do something the next year. Essentially, we had a wish list of what we could do. This is just visuals on here, I don't want to go project by project to describe it, but this is a screenshot from the very first CIP the city did. Showed where they were funding, what would happen for the next 5 years. It was very simplistic, but it was the perfect first step. Out of that, the next year in 2021, grew council working groups. There was the council was, we did into 2 separate committees that met looking at one transportation and the other parks. So what was the goal of this? We had, as we called it, the list of 99 projects, the list of 110, whatever the number was on the day we happened to look at it. And council worked on prioritizing them. We scored them, you took them, you gave them metrics, some weighted, some others. And the thing you came out are in the next 2 slides. And if you take a look at these, this is what the city staff has worked on for the past 5 years. This list and the 2 subsequent rankings, they look at those. They've seen what the priorities of the council are. They've seen what the priorities of the citizens are. And as they develop the next year's budget and adopt and amend the CIP, they work at what on those is a high priority and what can be done. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean top to bottom, you start 1, 2, 3, 4, and go down in order, because in some cases, project 3 is the 3rd priority, but there's no way it can start for 3 more years. It's just, it's a ranking, but not a time ranking. Going out of that, the council prioritization came in, and this is the 95 unfunded project list. You did them both weighted and unweighted. So in other words, who ranked them, and then you also got to score them. But when you did that, the thing that came out the most was the lists were pretty close to the same. The priorities, again, are things that are being done. And as you can tell, some of them, like on the left-hand side, the Cultural Arts Center facility expansion, done, check the box off. Go to the right side, Austin Elementary School site, implementation park design. There are issues, but we are moving on them. As you take a look at these, things are progressing. Staff looks at these. It is the perfect feedback because it is what council is prioritizing. We distilled it down to 1 more list. Again, you take a look at it, it's things it's working on. Nothing on these lists went to vapor unless it was something that is just certain other projects we know are longer term. The Citizen Capital Committee was an extreme heavy lift for the citizens, and I applaud all of them that participated in it. Again, the end result of that was very close to 3 lists, just kind of, here's parks, here's transportation. We even delayed the trail one until the trail master plan would be put in. But again, this gives staff guidance in what's looking. We keep going through these iterations and not a lot changes. Do things get talked about and things float to the top? Yes, but nothing radical changes off of them. So this goes back to the main point of tonight into the next deliverables and for feedback from council. Each year during the annual budget process, the staff refers back to prioritizations and brings together an annual CIP update. That's the budget that you get August 31st, which you approve before the end of November. At any time during those times, and even afterwards, council can amend the CIP plan. You can add, delete projects, add, delete funding. Those are all within your prerogatives and your powers. Inclusion in the CIP doesn't just mean that the staff picks at the top of the list. We do go through iterations internally, like, oh, we can't do this. I know, and I'm going to make it up, Project A can't be started for even 2 more years. So let's just move it down, even though it's the top of the list. It gets to where how the sausage is made roughly. And we want to include that discussion in this year's budget process. Also, just as a focus, the city's primary sources for CIP, and these are sources of funding that you, the city council, are over. There is federal funding and secondary funding, which could be included in here, but ones that which you have total control: SPLOST, hotel motel, and occasionally general fund tax dollars. Those are your 3 biggest pots of money. So just the next few slides are the projects themselves. And again, what we're going to recommend is that this upcoming budget process, so essentially through October and November, we start going through these to show you where they stand, what's happening with them, what's the next steps for you to ask questions. And these, I will admit, will be long sessions. They will probably be the type that a sandwich will be needed in between as a break. But we will work on those with you to go through and update council on all of them. Now, we also want to discuss during this time, not just the projects that you see that exist, but we also want to get into projects that don't, because that's the discussion that seems to be starting around and we're starting to get to. There are unfunded projects that do not make these lists. We as staff will pull those together so that you have those as part of the discussion process. You will have the list of unfunded capital requests that have been out there. And also, as you just saw with the Veterans Memorial, possible sources of funding. At that point, it's up to the council to work as a committee to work on whether or not to amend the CIP as it's proposed to include those projects or not include, or add and delete the current existing ones. But again, what staff is recommending is that this year's focus in the budget process be more focused on capital than it has been in the past. It's the next best step for what started 5 years ago with the inclusion of a capital plan. Again, going through that very quickly, but wanted to make it so that the table was set for y'all to give feedback, whether or not this would be the method you wanted to go through, or any improvements or suggestion to it.
Questions? Thank you for laying out questions. Oh, Tom, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jay, for the update and the presentation. I think this is very important for the council to revisit the CIP and our capital projects. Because essentially, like you said, an unfunded project is basically a project that's going nowhere, right? And so with the city has invested a lot of time and effort and resources into prioritizing our capital projects and trying to find a way to deliver those to the residents based on what is most important to our residents. And part of that, as you mentioned, was the bond referendum a couple of years ago. And when the bond referendum was unsuccessful, the funding for all of those projects disappeared. Put on my little geek hat here with a Marvel reference. It was like Thanos snapping his fingers. They turned to dust and floated away. Okay. But those projects are still there. Those projects are still there, right? And we haven't revisited the revenue portion of this. That doesn't mean that those projects are not important, just the revenue disappeared. And I think it's very important for us to revisit, because I do believe that some of the projects that were on that list are high on our residents' priority list. And so it's important for for the council to revisit those projects. So I like your suggestion of this being a part of the budgeting process. I think it's important for the whole council to be there, to have a robust discussion on making sure that our current CIP aligns with the priorities of the council and, more importantly, our residents, as far as where the funding is coming from. I fully support that idea and hope that becomes reality as part of the budgeting process.
Okay, John?
Yeah, one more thing if I could. I know we're not discussing projects today, but this meeting was informative on a couple issues regarding one project that came up 3 times today. And that was the North Peachtree project in the sense of the grant that went forward and we failed on getting. But when I looked at the accident map all around the city, every single one of those routes had some other project on it where I don't believe besides the crosswalk going over to Chestnut, there's then really no other project done on North Peachtree. So I would like to ask the city to just look at that for background as a possible addition of something that's not in the budget currently, but could use a project for improvement for walkers between the Dunwoody Village Apartments and Chestnut Elementary. Might be from the other way as well, Peeler to whatever. I
Beyond-
want that to be looked at.
Beyond the sidewalk we talked about.
Just the sidewalk. All I'm looking for
We
is a
talked
wider
about
sidewalk. Doesn't have to be a path.
Right.
I'm just looking for a sidewalk and public safety for the walkers going to Chestnut Elementary and Peachtree Middle School.
And I'd like to take it a step further than that. The grant we applied for was like $18 million or something, Michael might remember, but it was a humongous number. And the reality of us ever getting that funding is not. So when you look at also the sidewalk, if there's other small things we could pull out of there that are practical and could be done, that might be very helpful because it opens us up to a wider discussion that maybe we'll have during the budget process about what happens when we have a really expensive project and it's contingent on grant funding and the grant gets rejected. Does everything stop or do we pull certain, that'll be talked about during the larger CIP process, I think. Okay.
Well, that is in the city manager report buried in their public works. Michael, I talked to you at Michael Smith about that. We do have an award for KCI Technologies to do engineering studies for Dunwoody North. North Peachtree Road project. And Michael mentioned, so they're going to design the sidewalk on the east side.
Right.
So we just make sure what's in the scope of that to get it down further and so on what we can build on it. Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you. We look forward to working on this. Oh, sorry, Jim.
Tom, were you asking Jay, what's the next steps, how that looks like? Are we talking about a dedicated session? And what does that look like for us?
We'll get back to y'all on figuring that out once
Yeah.
we lay out everything.
Okay, thanks.
To borrow Tom's reference, it's like getting the stones for the gauntlet. He got the joke. Nobody else did.
I don't do pop culture. All right. Next. Go ahead, Stacy.
I just want to make sure that I understand the next steps. So as we go through the budget process, because, we have a CIP list. So the goal is that we're going to change and manipulate the CIP list and look at budgeting and look at budgeting the years. Is that going to go hand in hand, or are we just doing the CIP list and that you do, what is the deliverable coming from future discussions?
Okay.
Please.
And again, part of this is to be worked out in the details, but the budget will be submitted to you and it must be complete on August 31st. So it must have a balanced CIP. Along with that, we intend to give council a list of unfunded projects that are not in there, the discussion of which Councilman Lambert brought up. There are certain bigger projects associated with the bond that just aren't on the list. We're including those. We also tend to give the council a vehicle to put on the smaller list of which Mr. Hennigan mentioned, so that we've got those. At that point, council can do one of two options, A and B. So in other words, take a project off, put a project on, or you can take the sources of funding, which we will also identify, which you saw some of the Vietnam Memorial or the Veterans Memorial presentation, and you can then add that as your revenue source along with the project itself.
And this is staff work. So we allude to the fact that there's scope of your work and who is doing this, and this is extra stuff we're doing in the CIP. And are you all staffed enough to do this adequately?
The lift is twofold. I'll answer the question itself. We are adequately staffed to do it. It is a harder lift for us. I would love to have you would love to have a dedicated fixed asset person, would you? Yes, we would, but we don't, but we can make that lift. The other half of the lift has to come from council to work with the time it takes to actually review the CIP and go through projects. So lift on both sides, but it can be done. It is the next step in this process.
Okay, I'm gonna get with staff this week and send a doodle poll, so, because my own schedule's problematic, so, okay.
We're good.
All right, okay, that concludes, public comment, Zach. If you're still here, I can't see you. Okay. Behind the thing, we should remodel this.
I won't be able to make it to any of the other military comment stuff, so just wanted to throw something in real quick. You know, Bob Hickey, when he was talking about, like, you know, the sort of commonality of like income between renters and legacy homeowners, you know, yeah, there is, you know, I guess some commonality when it comes to income, although renters don't tend to be fixed income. But the real difference is that, you know, legacy homeowners and people like Bob Hickey, like they sit on, you know, near $1 million plus homes. Like these are assets that are growing in price, you know, in value every single year. You know, this is a form of income, a form of wealth creation for an individual. And renters don't have that. Renters don't have $1 million homes that they can sit on. Our renters, yeah, if people like them, especially associated with the No Parks and Path bond referendum, you know, if they really cared about renters and their lives, then they would be supporting policies that allowed for equal city property tax rates under, you know, regardless of who you are in Dunwoody, you know, in having equal rights under our laws. And right now that's not the case because we have this, you know, homestead valuation freeze. Our renters, they pay that full 3.04. But people like Bob Hickey don't. You know, you can look up people's property taxes online. They are public record. And, you know, he's not paying 3.04. He's paying 1.12. And it further decreases every year because he sits on that home. And not only that, he, you know, he's not even the owner of the home. His, you know, through property tax trickery with the cab, he takes advantage of his wife's financial situation to pay even less taxes. You know, it's the people who come up to all these meetings and are like, oh well, you know, oh well, I don't want this increase in tax and stuff like that. They're the people who contribute the least to this community financially. And, you know, I got 5 seconds, but, you know, they like, you know, everybody belongs in Dunwoody and everybody is a member.
Thank you.
Equal rights.
Thank you. All right, council comments.
Yes, yep.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, city manager. I put my
Oh,
agenda away. I have the wrong
Thank you,
agenda.
Mayor. We will need an executive session for real estate.
Okay. All right, council comments.
Yes.
Catherine.
I will start now. I am happy to announce I'm running for re-election for a second and final term on the city council. I'm proud to serve the city of Dunwoody. I appreciate and support the direction of the city. I love to work with the citizens, whether it's working on issues with public works or the trees or what have you, the DeKalb County, DeKalb schools, whatever it is. I appreciate that opportunity. And please look at my website, cathoncouncil.us. Thank you.
So apparently we're going to run right down the
Yep.
line here. I announced on Friday that I was also running for reelection for hopefully a second term. I think that as a council, we have accomplished a lot in the last 4 years, and I would love the opportunity to have another 4 years to see if we can accomplish a lot more for this community. Elect Rob for Dunwoody is my website, but anyway, I don't have quite the speech that you had prepared, but I've thoroughly enjoyed my time and I hope I get the opportunity to earn a second go round.
I guess I'll complete the hat trick here and formally announce that I too intend to run for election for my city council seat. I'll echo some of the comments that were made. I'm really proud of what we've collectively achieved as your local government and the progress our city's made and really even more proud when you consider some of the challenges we've had to overcome to do that. So I genuinely enjoy serving this community. Interacting with our residents and addressing their concerns and what they think is important to Dunwoody. And I hope that the residents will trust me with another 4 years to continue the work we're doing. I guess I'll throw out my website too. It's tomfordunwoody.com. There's a lot more information out there for you. But thank you. It's a privilege to serve, and I hope to have the opportunity to continue doing it.
Okay, so thank you all. Serving a community comes with much joy. And as we saw over the weekend, sometimes really horrible risk. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that political violence doesn't really change anything, and no one has the right to assassinate people for their beliefs. And that is really probably what happened in Minnesota this weekend. Our own Terry Boniff, who runs Jewish Family and Career Services, before she moved here, she was a state rep or senator in Minnesota, and she served with the people who were injured or killed. I'm friends with the mayor of Rochester, Minnesota. It's her community. These are hard times our country is in. And I know that everyone joins me in our prayers for healing of the victims and for the family of those who were killed. We have got to find a way to do better, people. We just do. We've got to figure out how to talk to each other and disagree and be able to maintain relationships even through that. Thank you all. I need a motion for executive session.
Move to exit to executive session for purposes of real estate.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll be back.
That's all right. But
On here? There we go. Oh,
Move to adjourn.
second.
Thank you. Everybody later downstairs.